Hi folks, I'm Rick Hollis. Welcome to Chit Chats with Git Cats number 10. Today's guest is an icon of pop music in Australia who first came to prominence as lead singer for Radio Darling's Kids in the Kitchen at the ripe old age of just 17. And he didn't turn out an absolute cockhead like Justin Bieber. I'm going to have to pick his brains and find out what his mama taught him to turn out a good guy. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Scott Carne.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Rick. Finally.
Hey, a bit of a round of applause there.
From playing gigs together to now doing interviews together. There you go.
Yeah. Mate, how's things in your neck of the woods? I'm hearing a bit of a bleed from somewhere. I'll just make sure that's all turned down. That's not from me. That's fine.
It's from me,
how's
is
things,
it?
buddy?
Yeah, things are good. Things are great. Obviously, with this current situation, I don't really want to get into that. It's the same for everybody. But, no, we're doing fine down here and, nice part of the world down here on the Mornington Peninsula. So, yeah, it could be worse.
Great,
gotta say.
Mate, I am hearing just a little bit of an echo. I'm just trying to pick where that's coming from before I lose my mind, but I think I just found it. All good.
Oh, cool.
That's that one right there. Scott.
It's what, pseudo echo, was it?
It was a pseudo echo, but I've just killed it. So, Scott, how the hell does a 17-year-old guy in Australia become a national popcorn icon in the 80s, mate? What was the story there? Fill us in.
Well, there's no rhyme or reason, but I think it's one of those scenarios, the right time at the right place. Music was making a big shift from the pub rock sound, and then with Countdown kind of and the UK sound picking up and MTV and whatnot. The haircut bands started up, and the new romantic scene, the post-punk scene started, and we were amongst that. And and what happened was, Duran and Simple Minds and all those bands, Ultravox, whatever, all those kind of bands were coming out of the UK and kind of smashing it with their, fab videos and and the whole deal. And we were really influenced by it all. So, and so we kind of started writing music and thinking not much of it. Got a couple of gigs. On our third gig, we got a manager. And then Real Life, my good friend David Sterry from Real Life got signed, and they had a smash hit with Send Me an Angel.
And what a song.
Yeah, that's right. And that kind of set up, the A&R guys were kind of looking for the next, Real Life, so to speak, around Australia. So suddenly, they were out the traps, all the city gigs with the Jump Club in Collingwood. That's one of our favourites, or Macy's or whatever it was we all played at. 7 nights a week, in fact. You could do a gig. Not that there was much money in it, but we everyone was working. Bands did 4 nights a week. 7 nights a week, I think bands were playing, and Saturday afternoons and Sunday afternoons, and there was 4 or 5 bands a night, new bands, and people would go out and listen to like new music, and they would embrace it because finding out that some new kind of band to follow, and so the cover band scene wasn't really kind of a current thing. It was kind of like it was a very bit of a no. So we played a couple of gigs, and Real Life got signed, and then I think within about 2 months after we started playing some gigs, we got poached by Mushroom Records, Michael Kadinsky down there. At that stage, I think it was Neil Bradbury from White Label, which is a subsidiary of Mushroom, which had Hunters and Collectors and a couple of other bands, and I don't know why we kind of didn't really fit that bill. We're a bit too poppy for them, but for that label. But hence we got signed to that label, and before that we did the closing deal was doing it. We went and did a demo one night, in the Graveyard session with Lobby Lloyd at Richmond Recorders, and kind of you go in at midnight and come out at 7 a.m. and with a demo. Nice. And we basically, from that session, we got the deal and released our first song. It was all happening really fast, and had our first manager, released our first song. It just went bang, like it just went viral, and and the rest is history, so to speak.
So back then, technology was such a big thing. Like it was all about the synth pop, drum machines. Was that a lot for you guys to take on back then? Like, did you hear that music and go, "We want to make that"? Okay, we've got a hell of a lot of learning to do, or?
We didn't know. We kind of just locked ourselves in a room and kind of just fleshed out and jammed around stuff. And I used to, go back and work on lyrics and come back and, and the songs were kind of formed from a week to week basis. And, we basically got together once a week before we even did our gigs. This is like, a year before we did gigs and didn't know what we had, what we were kind of cooking up. We just really dug what we were doing. And we thought, well, it's about time to do a gig. And I think I got our first gig at the Champion Hotel, and friends came down and they were just busting a move. And they thought, this is great, guys. You should do more. And it's like, okay. And then, as I said, because I used to kind of go frequent these, different venues and stuff, I hooked up with this guy called Terry Rogers, our first manager, and he took us under his wing and got us to the deal level. And, so, it's just a colourful and great time for music. I mean, look, there was no Netflix, there was nothing to do. There was three television stations running. You went to the movies, you went out, to the footy game, or you went and saw a band, or went to the disco, and put your bag on the floor and danced around that, So it was a time when it was just great to get out and have fun, and no distractions, no selfies, nothing going on there. I mean, we got away with murder, I've got to say, literally. So it was a great, colourful time for music, and also but we were still at the the mercy of record companies. So if you didn't get a record deal, you didn't have a career. And that's the difference about what I really like now, is the fact that now you can kind of, release your music through different digital platforms, yourself if you want, or just, it's kind of, make it in your bedroom. And there's some great stuff coming out, and the stuff that I listen to on a lot of streaming platforms now, and that I love and get turned on to. And, you find music again. So it's great for discovering music and for the music business as far as getting your wares out there, in a global level. But it's no good as far as the royalty factor. So, it's live music is where you make your living from, and playing that stuff live. But it's kind of like it was anyway, in the 80s, because you kind of find that you sign these record deals and somehow you haven't recouped your record. You sign a bad record deal, or just they take advantage of your naivety, these record companies, and you find that you never really got any royalties from it. And
lots of stories of that. Lots of stories.
Yeah, unless you were kind of like a global phenomenon. I know Real Life, and they made a lot of money, but once again, we all got the same story. They got ripped off from their managers and record companies too. And that's what happened, But now it's still got a career. It's out there playing and doing I'm doing out there lots of different kind of things, lots of different hats, and it's great to still be working in the biz,
Yep. So you say you're out there doing a lot of different things. One of those things is the Absolutely 80 show, which I feel very privileged that when you come to Queensland, you give me a call and I get
you're the man. You're the man for Queensland. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But you've also got a few other things. You got a Queen tribute show.
Yeah, well, it's more of a concept show. I mean, we pay tribute to it's called Kings of Queen.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like the Ab 80 show. We have featured guests come on and sing the back catalogue and stuff, and the bands are always stellar. It's about sounding like the real thing. We dress up a little bit and pay tribute to Freddie, and tip our hat, so to speak, but we try, we don't paint on moustaches and pretend to be that, but that's a lot of fun, and it's great. And in recent years, it's we put together Kids in the Kitchen again, and that's been fantastic therapy for us all, so to speak, and good to get back together after all of the the dust settled and the wheels fell off, because it was a hard and fast journey, with Kids in the Kitchen. And as I say in Spinal Tap, we traveled the world and elsewhere. And when it came down, kind of finished, it was kind of like it was a bit bitter towards the end, not so much personally, but the wash up and the kind of closing down of the business and the company and debt and all that kind of stuff. Took its toll on us and put a bit of bad taste in our mouth. So from that point onwards, I took a bit of a break and just went into the behind the scenes, had a recording studio and for a number of years, 10 odd years. So So yeah, you kind of reinvent yourself, and I wasn't willing to kind of pick up the shovel and go and do that, but I would have if I had to, but I had to reinvent myself, and I did, and luckily I kind of came out unscathed.
Cool. Well, mate,
Yeah.
I got to say, the first time I ever played a show with you, we got to the end of the night. We'd played the whole set list. You came over, you stuck your hand on my shoulder, and you yelled in my ear over the music, mate, do you know how to play Shook Me All Night Long by AC/DC? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And you gave me the double squeeze, which anybody knows is signal for go. And I'm like, okay. And I'm looking around thinking, who the hell's going to sing this? I'm looking around because we also had Brian Mannix and Sean Kelly on the bill, and I'm looking at them going, I don't see them singing this. Don't see you singing this. And then the vocals go to kick in, and you, motherfucker, kick in with that's the best I've ever heard anybody sing that song. I've heard some people scream it, and I just looked at you afterwards and went, hell, man, I didn't know you'd be able to pull that out. So
where did that come from?
Where did that come from? Yeah,
exactly. I'm very lucky to have the gift of a great voice, and I never kind of take that for granted. But yeah, I mean, it's I didn't know I was a singer even in, back in the day at school, when I discovered that music, so to speak. I discovered music quite late at school. The guy said to me in one of the bands, he said, I brought my bass along, and I was pretty rubbish with that. And he said, can you sing? I said, I don't know. He said, well, try. And I did. And I was a really good screamer, to the point where I sang so hard that, I'd have like brain headaches after singing. It was like, and then I developed a bit on the way and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm very blessed to have the voice that I have, and I just love it. I love this. I love singing, and at my age I've still got it. I've still got the voice. I've still got some extra things I've got too. But so that's what comes with age. But
happens to us all, mate.
A mate of mine says it's it's Carnesy, Barnesy, and Farnsy. So it's I have a lot of fun doing it, and things like the Queen show was a real test in her vocal ability, and the other singers we have in that show are fantastic too. Like Tim Watson from Taxi Ride. Glenn Cunningham, he's one of the kind of voice stars, and he's the singer for the Stars, BV singer. And we've got Chris Tahini from Geisha, Dale Ryder, of course, from Bean Crash Opera, and the list continues. So that's a fun show with that. But for the last 14 years, what's really helped me too, and helped a lot of us, is the Absolutely 80s show. We've been doing that for 14 years now, and with all the singers from the 80s, and we have just the best time. We have a lot of fun, and we all share the same story. We all understand it. We don't, there's no real pre-Madonna stuff going on. Occasionally, in the 14 years, of course, there's going to be a little bit, but but generally, it's a well-oiled machine, and we dig that. And just having a few different hats. Aside from doing the shows and the Kids in the Kitchen, and I had this Priscilla's Nightmare thing in the 80s, which we're just about to release a back catalogue EP on all the streaming sites, which is going to be fantastic. Aside from all of that, there's other stuff I have to do to survive too. It's not just the live playing. So I book entertainment, and I do a bit of this and a bit of that. Never thought I'd be that guy, but I like to be in control of my destiny, because for all those years I wasn't. Yeah. The managers and the chain of command were just kind of fleecing us really badly, and you'd work really hard and then have to go back on the road because you have to feed yourself, so to speak. So it was quite criminal what was going on back then. Hence me kind of taking the reins with, say, the Absolutely 80s show. Most of the shows I do, and just to make sure everyone gets looked after, because that's what it's about. Treating people with respect, and that's kind of where it's at.
Absolutely 80s. Speaking of Absolutely 80s, do you want to fill in the people just some of the revolving lineup that you have involved in Absolutely 80s? Because I got to say, when I come and play with you, I'm absolutely beside myself, standing there playing and going, hey, I'm playing such and such a song, and that's actually blah, blah, blah. Who's some of the people you got on board for that one, mate?
Oh, of course, the Lair with Flair, Brian Mannix, and Dale Ryder from Boom Crash Opera. Sean, the ARIA Award winner, the only one amongst us, Sean Kelly from The Models. Ali Fowler from the Shantuzis and some of the other girls from the Shantuzis time to time come and play with us, like Eve and Tot. And the list continues, Freddie from the Machinations, Paul Norton, David Sterry from Real Life, can't forget him. And it's a kind of a revolving door. We do other corporate kind of shows where, Ross Wilson comes along and does something, or, there's that kind of, caliber of artist that comes along and guests with us as well. Mark from Choir Boys has done stuff in the past as well. So it's a revolving door. We have a lot of fun with it, and it's a real good catch up too. It's kind of like, when you go on the road and you go away we don't tour crazily like the old days. We just go away for the weekend, and kind of, come back in a body bag after it. No, not really. But like it's, Friday, Saturday night or Sunday, and, you kind of come back and it's great, and you kind of get on with your week, and the next weekend you got something else going on. So, it's a lot of fun. It's, to be working in that capacity and enjoying it. It's really important to me, and I think it's very important to everyone else, I'm sure. So, we've got great friendship, great kinship, it's just so much fun, blessed to have it.
I got to say, I have one problem with playing with you guys, and that is that my cheeks hurt. You guys, the way you take the piss out of each other on stage, I am just smiling so hard in between songs that I've never experienced this before. My cheeks hurting. It is just gold. Seriously, the way you guys take the piss out of each other. So you've obviously all known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
Did you consider some of these people like rival bands back then, or was there more of a work together mentality?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, Brian comes up with a great analogy that, back then we were playing for different football teams. I was St Kilda and he was Essendon. We were really competitive and envious, and what are they doing? What are they doing? And and it wasn't, and because you didn't know each other, you had you kind of conjured up this image of what these people were like. And years later, we're kind of retired in the retired league, so to speak, and getting together. It's you realise how similar we all are, Yeah. And that's the thing, But I think that if the managers realised we all got together and had a chat back then, we'd probably work out what was going on. Exactly. So they wanted to keep the healthy competition between us all, I'm sure. There's a little bit of that going on. So, Yeah.
So I just asked that question, and Link, my friend Big Fella Link, just asked a similar question right around the same time. And he said, for Scott, did any of the established big bands take you under their wing back in the 80s, or was it every band for itself? So I just answered that second half, but was there any big bands that kind of took you guys under the wing?
Well, we mainly in Australia. I mean, we did our little thing overseas. We signed to Sire Records in New York, and went to so went and did a showcase show in New York. That is, and a few other things, but just showcase thingies, and did all that MTV stuff over there, and try to get it going over there. But quite frankly, I don't think the record companies here really wanted us to leave. There's too much money. Once we left the shores, we weren't making money for them. So it wasn't really in their interest to have us kind of be a global success, because, they miss out on the most of the pie, because, we work 7 nights a week,
Yep.
And some of the, and our record label had had an agency as well, had everything going on. So they, so they had a good lion's share of what we were earning. So, but in saying that, they did give us a good run overseas to get things going. But back over here, we did a couple of, you kind of do those, now you've got Day on the Green, and you've got these other things where people, these collective lineups. But there's a few of those shows, but not a lot. They didn't really utilise the outdoor things so much. There's a few where we went on bills with Divinals and other acts like that. But the one I remember the most is, and very fond of, is our first ever East Coast tour. It's changing. We went up the charts, bang, and we became the support act for Models.
Cool.
On their East Coast tour. At that stage, James Ford was with them, Sean Kelly, Andrew Duffield. I think Roger might have been playing keyboards. No, it was Andrew Duffield. Sorry, and I was trying to think. Oh yeah, and Barton Price on drums. So that was the Models lineup, and they were really great to us, and a lot of fun, and it was just a gas, hanging out with those guys, and we did a couple of other things like that, but nothing more memorable than that run, you know.
Yep.
And here I am all these years later doing shows with Sean. You know, he's one of my best friends, and he's a real sweetheart, and you know, a very talented musician. You know,
mate, I haven't spent that much time with Sean. I did one run of shows with you guys, and he is completely different to what I imagined the guy that I picture in the models. I can remember hanging out with him. I'd be scratching my head, sort of going, talking to this guy Sean. He's a lovely chap. I just cannot put in my head that that's the same guy. But yeah, you do find that though, that a lot of these people are absolutely lovely.
Yeah, like look, as I said, no one we work with are kind of, you know, troublemakers or pains in the ass. You know, it's like otherwise you wouldn't be doing. I mean, everyone values each other's friendship, and you know, it's an enjoyable thing. I think the great thing about the Absolutely 80s show, for instance, is like compared to our original bands, you're going to get on doing, you know, we'll start a show and, you know, come out and do 2 songs of our back catalogue songs each. And then, you know, and then that kind of thing rolls on, and then might be a cover together, and then the second set we bring out the big guns, the big hits, you know, and it's on and off stage. So so we have just as much. We're not on stage all the time, so we have just as much fun backstage that we do on stage, and getting on stage from backstage.
Yeah.
So it's you know, it's kind of bedlam and craziness, and you know, you kind of go out with a big bang, you know, and you come back in and, you know, get on the oxygen tank and then kind of go back out again. So so it's a real wow factor, that show, and I love it. It's not unlike some of the other things that I'm doing now too, which is kind of a great, you know, a great model for entertainment. You know, just, you know, within this kind of world of kind of, you know, short attention spans. You know. You know, so it's just, it's great to be in that situation to reinvent it. But and the musicians, you know, the musicians are fantastic. You know, we've got some great players. I mean, we've got a great Melbourne band. We look to make it affordable to tour. You know, we and the work the way we do, we have, you know, a backing band in every state, pretty much, and you know, so one in Melbourne and one in Sydney, one in Queensland, which you're involved with.
I am.
And you know, and so on through other states, and occasionally, you know, on the big paying gigs, we'll fly people in and do that kind of stuff. But it's great to also have that as well, where, you know, you kind of you're checking in with people you haven't checked in for a while, if you have a lot of fun, you know, everyone kind of, you know, does their best, and it's always a gas, you know, it just keeps it revolving, you know.
Yeah. So I did say to you, Scott, before we actually went live, that it really surprised me that I learnt your songs off the record and everything before I did my first show with you guys. But then when I actually went out there, you sing better now than back then. Like, I listened to some of those notes on Kids in the Kitchen, on Change in Mood, etc. And oh, it's a little pitchy there. Man, you fucking nail it now. So how did you progress as a singer?
Look, you know, I had singing lessons after I had, like, initially, you know, we had the first single come out. Suddenly we were working 7 nights a week, you know, and I was like, you know, running out of steam with my voice, you know. I was like, God, I've got to sort out something. So I went and had some singing lessons, the breathing technique things going on, and I did that. I don't do a lot of scales. I you know, just a little vibration warm up thing, a little thing, you know. I blew out the microphone then, but just a vibrating thing, and I just know where to pitch and sing, and over time, because not only that, I haven't really stopped singing for my whole career. I mean, I started when I was 17, 18, and, you know, I'm kind of, you know, in my mid 50s now, so it's quite a long time to sing. And I had a bit of a hiatus in the 90s when, you know, no one would want to know about you in the 90s. You know, you kind of do, you know, in the corner of the bar, playing a guitar or something.
Yeah.
But that's when I had the studio basically and did all that stuff. But yeah, I kind of hadn't lost it, and I just got it. And because I started listening to so much just different kind of music when I was, you know, like I went from, you know, being in the 80s, listening to 80s music, then to kind of going to the 90s and kind of going through that whole Manchester scene and stuff like that. And, you know, I went and recorded a couple of singles for my solo career and got caught up in the scene over there, and didn't want to come back, as you do, and then kind of progressed into kind of listening to, like, in the mid 90s, listening to funk music, you know, like, back into the back catalogue of, you know, whether it be Sly and the Family Stone or Grand Central Station, or just, you know, that kind of, you know, really melodic funk, you know, and started collecting that stuff, started playing that stuff, and started writing that stuff. And so all these different musical genres that I kind of shifted and moved through just have all attributed, I think, to my vocal ability.
Yep.
Because you find different ways to sing, and you emulate and you do whatever it is. But just the love of music. I think when you really love music and you're in that moment where you find that you kind of you find something else within yourself to project. But you got to be in that moment,
Yep.
and that's where you explore yourself, and you find that you can do other things, say vocally,
Yep.
But yeah, that's all.
So we've got a question from Jeanette Utopia. Are you going to do theatre?
Theatre? No, I couldn't do I couldn't do theatre. No. I mean, I couldn't do seven shows a week, and kind of just bust it out. It's like, no, thanks, I'm done with that. But I love music too much. I mean, look, given the right thing, my ego might allow me to kind of partake. But yeah, I don't think it's something that I'd rush into.
Sure.
And unless it's replacing Bert Newton or something, I might, an easy role, I might be okay with it. But
so, mate, as being that you're only 17 years old when all this started happening for you, do you look back in hindsight? Do you think you handled it well? Was it a total mind fuck for someone that young? Do you look back and go, oh, geez, I would have done that differently in hindsight? How is it looking back?
I don't have any regrets. Number one.
Yeah.
No regrets.
No regrets.
No regrets. But doing it. Oh, look, I just think that management back then, management back then were kind of high flying yuppies, and they weren't nurturing enough. And I think that's the other thing I think that is really important to an artist. It's like when you get caught up in that whirlwind and you're really working hard, and they're kind of just pushing you out, trying to get you on a lull of gigs and stuff like that. And just I think artists now are kind of almost probably in a better situation, being the fact that because they kind of produce their music from ground zero and kind of get it up there and kind of do a few gigs and this and that, and they become a little bit more in control. They're coming in from the reverse end, they're kind of already viral sometimes, and then they're kind of getting management, so they can call the shots a bit more. Where there was too much importance placed on managers in the 80s, and their decisions were like the decisions of the demigod. It's like, oh, okay, whatever you think, yeah, okay, blah blah blah, and they weren't nurturing enough. That was it. And they kind of didn't. We got work to the bone, and so the last thing you want to kind of do is come off the road or something and go, write, and then you have 6 weeks to kind of try to prepare for your second album or whatever that is, and it's a tough call. Don't say me there's some good guys out there. There's a couple of good guys out there, but generally it's the same story with all of them.
Yeah. So I know when I played guitar for an artist that was signed with Sony. He was a solo artist. He released 2 singles. First one made it to about number 20 in the charts.
Yeah.
In the top 40. And to Sony, that wasn't good enough. The next one sort of was a bit under that, and he got dropped after that. That was how disposable artists were back then. To most people, having a number 20 song in the charts is success, but not in some record companies' eyes.
Well, yeah, that's right. You have that. We were fortunate to have Change Your Mood as our first single, and we had Bitter Desire, the second single, which was written in the studio because the producer, the producer came out from LA in his pink jumpsuit with his kind of Russian girlfriend, and kind of
who was that?
David Kirschenbaum. Look, he was fantastic.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, he did Joe Jackson and I think some Supertramp stuff. But it was that classic LA. And everyone had to have the overseas producer, but all of the engineers out here were doing all the heavy lifting and actually, were setting the stage for these producers to come along. And half the time they were just on the phone, kind of working out the next session. Mm-hmm. But to David's credit, it was a really good session, a Bitter Desire session, because it was nerve-wracking for me personally, but he came out to record another song, and then he walked into the rehearsal studio, and we were just fleshing out this this tune, which became Bitter Desire, right?
Yep.
So it's a kind of, and he walks in and he goes, yeah, what's that? And I said, oh, it's just a song we're working on. So I said, I love that. Play it again. And he's doing this whole thing,
Yep.
And suddenly we're writing this song, and before we're going in the studio, and it's not even written, and we're going in the studio, and here I am trying to flesh out lyrics, and you're spending kind of $1,000 a day for about 2 weeks or something, and I'm really stressing out about it. Write these songs a bit of desire, and fortunately I got through it okay, and thinking, well, how's this going to work? But it came together, and released it as a second single. I went top 20 or something nationally, and quite high in some of the eastern states, and then again we went on, and then so we had that so we had 2 singles before Mushroom decided, okay, let's do an album, and so even then it was like Molly produced our 3rd single. Oh, cool. Something that you said. He heard the demos. We were about to walk on stage at supporting the Police for the very ever last show at the Synchronicity tour.
Oh, cool.
And we're kind of shitting ourselves. And we're going to play for like 2 months or something at this stage. We had a bit of a break. We kind of put on these fancy new suits and we're about to go on, really. And then, moments before, Kadinsky kind of comes in and goes, okay, Molly's heard the new single and he loves it. He wants to produce it. We're going, this is Molly, the real thing. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And we went on stage, did the gig, and kind of came off. And then we went in the studio with Molly, and it was a fantastic experience. But in true Molly fashion, everything is on it. Suddenly there were strings and there was this and that. And he loved the song, and it was kind of a little bit overproduced. And we did a mix and stuff. There was just there's a lot of stuff on it, and then we remixed that with the guy then who became the producer for the first album, Shine, Mark Berry, and he came and he kind of we whipped that into shape and did some fancy stuff, and Craig Harneth did some fancy stuff on the bass and the kick drum, and just kind of got a bit more rocking, and that became a hit too. So we had 3 singles before we had an album out. Whoops, sorry, hit the microphone. So and then the album comes out, and Current Stand. This is for the Kids in the Kitchen fans. Current Stand comes out, and there's a huge hit, and so on and so on. So we ended up lifting like 6 singles off that first album. Wow. And we toured that first album for what seemed to be how long? Probably a year or something, non-stop. Of course, there's lots of money to be made for people.
Yep.
Except us.
There's a very rich manager.
But money wasn't where we were at back then,
Yeah.
But, it was about just the journey,
How about lineup changes, mate? Because Claude plays guitar for Kids in the Kitchen, right?
Yeah.
He was on those first singles? Was that him on those? It wasn't, was it?
Well, no. So it's kind of some unfortunate circumstances with the lineup shuffles and changes. It was like, once again, management got involved and made it really difficult. And, the first guitarist and the keyboard player, we did our second single, Bit of Desire, and it was over a video clip. It was like, everyone's getting a little bit headstrong, and that's fair enough. They want, wanting stuff, to happen and at a level, and these guys are in a band at the stage, Greg, they're wanting stuff to happen at a level, which is more than acceptable, because we were at that level that we could have gone super virally, globally massive at that stage, and so they were wanting to do things right, and so the second single the video director said, look, hey, can you get, Keith Haring's coming out, can you get him to do some graffiti art in our video? And they go, yeah. Then they come back to us, go, yeah, it's on, it's all happening, blah, blah, blah. And then come to the video shoot day, and there's no talk or no sign of Keith Haring going to be able to coming out to do it. And so the boys just decided, hey, we're taking a stand here. You promised us this. We're not turning up. But they waited to the video day to do that, So so half of the band's dressed, including me, ready to do the video, and they didn't turn up, and it cost money. And from that point onwards, it just caused, the record company saying, drop this money, all the back, this will be in the book, I think. But but the thing is, it's a tangled web. We could have worked it out, but once again, management, they broke, they kind of got involved and got in our ear and said, look, you got to replace these guys. This can't happen. I think into the second video, it was an under budget video, and then I think that point when the guys rocked up and said this is rubbish too, then they went, because my theory was, you have to kind of suck it and see for a while, and just until you get to that level, you can actually just be be a kind of a big star and say, look, I'm not doing this or I'm not doing that. So we're kind of just trying to, tread on eggshells around the industry to get to the level we needed to. But the other guys were a little bit, were smoking guns, So, cut a short story long, the whole thing with those boys is that they're asked to move on, and I wasn't really, that's me, that's breaking up the chemistry, Mm-hmm. But we were really fortunate enough to get and do the auditions. We were auditioning days of auditioning people. It's like, it's like a scene out of Spinal Tap,
in there.
Nigel Tufnell's coming in and stuff, left, right, and centre. And they come in and we kind of do the whole thing. And it was Claude Carranza, the guitarist at that stage. He came in we got a call from someone, this guy's pretty good, blah, blah, blah. I think it was Russell Smith or something, might have been Russell Smith, the trombone player, gave someone a heads up about him, and he came in completely unprepared, but just came in and plugged his guitar and went bang, and we just knew from that point onwards he was the guy.
He was the guy, yeah.
Yeah. And so he kind of morphed on the Greg style a lot, the guitar pluck a chicken thing going on, the delay thing going on, with the U2-ish kind of stuff. And he took on that really well. And then we fleshed out and started writing our own songs. We found, Alistair Coyers, because there's two guys that replaced, Alistair Coyer, the keyboard player, and he's a really great player.
Oh, cool.
And he came in and played keyboards and we kind of, wrote these songs like Current Stand and Not the Way and over half of the first album, was written from that point onwards. And then, so we were really fortunate to have these other guys. But, the great thing about it now, the story goes, the revolving door thing, with the reformation of Kids in the Kitchen and things like that is that, now Greg plays shows with us as well as Claude. When Claude can't do shows because Joe Camilleri is busy, Greg does the shows. But, but we also understand that Greg is a really, important part of what Kids in the Kitchen was too, and I know Claude thinks the same way, and so it's once again it's a revolving door, and there's no rules, to what we can do, and the fact that the whole kind of scenario of friendship has been repaired, and any ill feelings are kind of gone now. We're back doing like we did it when we did it from the start, for the enjoyment of it all,
That's totally great, man. That's
the most important thing about music, to do that,
Yeah, because that you mentioned the delay, the U2 style delay, change in mood's a classic for that. That is such a signature thing of your original player. I got asked in a live chat not that long ago what my favorite song to play live is, and I actually said Change in Mood with you, because when you nail that delay part, it's awesome. I love it. Just the way it all bounces. You're playing half of what you hear, but it's just so...
Well, we produced that song as our first single. We went up to Sydney and with Ricky Fattar and Tim Kramer. Ricky Fattar used to be the Ruttles, but he was actually a Beach Boy at one stage or something too, really? Right? Yep. So he was like the staff producer at Festival.
Yep.
Lovely sweetheart, and Tim Kramer was a fantastic guy too. So we went up there and we did Change in Mood. We kind of flew up there, did a gig, I think a gig and the session, and it was fantastic. But it was, I think, it was a big shift in like there's a change in tempo with it, So it starts off with this kind of halftime thing and then goes into this, but the song naturally picks up by about 4 to 5 beats by the end of the song.
Yep.
Where it gets faster.
Yep.
And in the rules of music, speeding up a song is a no. But this is the way we wrote music, and this is that was the beauty and the whole the lovable factor of the Kids in the Kitchen songs and the way they came through, on record. So yeah.
Yep. So did you find that you had to learn a lot of the technology and stuff? You mentioned that you went on to owning a studio and stuff. So yeah, was that something you had to pick up along the way using technology or?
Yeah, look, I'm a good kind of wrangler and stuff like that. Like technology and stuff, I kind of got into, but always have good people working around me. That's my thing. Like the musicians, I've got this a couple of guitars here, and all of them I can't play very well. But my son's much better guitar player than I'll ever be. But I've always been fortunate to have these great musicians and great talent, and I've had a really good eye for that. For going. He's the guy, and just knowing, and it's not just the ability to play the music too; it's the personality too. I mean, as a mate of mine, Mick Duracell says, the bass player has been playing with me for about 20 plus years. He used to be in Black Sorrows. He said people play like their personalities, and I believe that a lot. They kind of comes out that way, and yeah, just had a good ear and a good eye for that, and just and I had the recording studio for 10 odd years, and had Johnny French was the guy that kind of basically started the engineering. He was an engineer that slash producer at kind of laid the ground for Australian music from the Skyhooks right through to through everything to solid rock Joanna and stuff and all that kind of that era.
Yep.
He wasn't doing much in the 90s, and I kind of I found his number from someone and came in, and he started kind of tracking some music and recording some stuff, and all those experiences are really fantastic to have. Especially the recording studio. It wasn't, we didn't kind of pull out a lot of cut a lot of great released music, but there's a lot of young bands coming through, and we were nurturing them and doing their demos and getting them to to deal level and. And just kind of trying to keep the business alive before the computers came in and ruined everything.
So you did touch on something just about, you play like your personality and stuff. A good friend of mine, Pete Lyons, who actually knows Claude, does front of house for Black Sorrows when they're up this way, always has said to me since I was quite young, it's not about how good you play. That's part of it, but it's all about being easy to work with. No one wants to work with a fuckwit. And you've got to be on the road with these people all the time. So, just be there on time.
Yeah.
I fucked up the first time I ever played with you. I got caught in a traffic jam, so I kind of almost lost my gig then and there. We won't talk about that. Be on time. Just set your shit up like that and just have it all work. Play the fucking songs the way you should. It's overlooked. People, I think, spend a bit too much time working on chops and things, thinking, I'm going to go play for all these guys. But they're a dick to work with, and they're not going to get the gig. So it's one of those things that people don't think about.
It's important. Look, it's just important. You need to know your people, and also too, I'm that kind of guy too that will give someone if you're working with professionals in a professional scenario where you've got to keep things at a level. People mess up once, fine, but if they mess up 2 and 3 times, you got to move on, mate.
Yeah.
But I like to also give people the benefit of the doubt and give them second or third chance at the most. But just people that are I just like it's important. I think at my age too now to work with people in the industry that are enjoyable to work with. I think life's get kind of too short. It's kind of ticking away pretty quick.
I asked you about just the technology and how much on top of that you are, because the first run of shows I played with you, we had the wrong keyboard player. We had a guy, we knew it straight away. He was a piano guy, and you guys are all synth. And I knew it at rehearsal when he came in, and you guys are like, that sounds just cutting off a little bit too much. Can you adjust your synth, just a bit more release and stuff? And I'm just watching this poor guy looking at his synth. And I know a bit about synths, so I'm a bit of a synth nerd as well as guitars. I knew exactly where to go and all that. I'm watching this poor fella, and then you guys are all on him, and you're throwing the terms at him, and I could see he wasn't understanding. So I thought, these guys, they know their shit. It was you, Brian. He was talking the talk as well. So I gathered that along the way, you'd picked up all the technology talk. So.
Well, look, also too, the show must go on. I mean, in that scenario, you can sit there and kind of, the guy will know too if he's underprepared or he's not the guy. Sometimes guys get pushed into these situations, or there's an MD, so to speak, that you put your trust in, and sometimes that's doesn't quite work out.
Yeah.
But the show must go on.
Yep.
So you don't want to kind of come in hard and do the there's some people out there in the industry that you and I know that are just bastards to work with. Like they treat their bands like pieces of shit, and it's not how you get the job done.
Not at all, mate. I saw a documentary on Ginger Baker from Cream. No one to work with him.
Yeah,
he passed away recently, didn't he? Yeah, that's a good doco. Starts off with him breaking the other guy's nose, right? Is that the one? Yeah.
Yeah.
No one to work with him because he's a dick. Doesn't matter.
No, that's right.
Doesn't matter how good you are. If you're a dick, you're a dick.
Yeah, that's right. But look, it's Australians, the Australian musos. There's some great Australian musos, and it's like I know that if like because they got like there's guys like you and the guys out of Sydney and stuff, like you go up there and they're kind of playing. 1 minute they're playing with someone else, they're playing with some big names, and next playing with you. They're playing the other kind of, then they're reading and they're reading off charts. They're doing different things, and they're just full pros, and a pleasure to work with, and just do the job and get it done, and always smiling. Nothing's a problem, and it's great that we've got these these musos in this country that are that are the versatile that can do that, but I think I remember kind of working and going over the 90s and then going to working with session guys when I was doing my solo stuff, session guys over at in London, and they just weren't cutting the mustard. So I had to get the guy that did the demos with to come out, and then we just redid the demos and cleaned them up and released these couple of songs, and why did I think that, why did everyone, that was the whole stigma back then, with musos weren't good enough, or the industry wasn't, engineers weren't good enough here. Yeah. You had to go overseas to do something, to get that next level. And it's the chemistry and the magic that's created. So I was over there recording at Abbey Road,
Wow.
and, went through studios and this and that, using lots of Michael Kaninsky's money at that stage, but what goes around comes around, I guess. Yeah. And it just wasn't working. For me to get this guy Don Nardi, who I wrote these songs with, and says, is a great soul, and came out. And we just had a ball and just smashed these songs out, and they turned out the way we expected them to.
Nice one. So, have you crossed paths with anybody? I'm sure you have along the way that you just go, no way, I just met blah blah blah, or has there been a few of those along the way?
Yeah, there's been a few of those, but it's kind of after the fact. I met like Andy Warhol. Wow. I met Frank Zappa. It's kind of like, it's like, and I didn't really know who they are or their cred at that stage until years later. I'm going to go, oh my God, but I didn't cave or kind of buckle when I met them, and as a result, I had, some minor conversations, and, it was kind of, that's what it was. Just water off a duck's back, having a chat, moving on. It's like when I meet sportsmen, I'm so not, my kids are like, know so much about sports and footy and stuff like that. And, I'll meet, the captain of whoever it is, the Collingwood or whatever it is. And everyone will be gushing. I can't believe tell me a bit, it's like what? Is that who it is it? So, it's kind of.
I'd be the same, mate. I'd be the same. Yeah.
It's a bit like Z-League, they just kind of, prop up, these situations. But yeah, there's a big card of different people that I've met over the year. But, the real idols that I would have loved to have met, and or hung out with or something like that would be, they're my bucket list. But most of those are gone now. But, a lot of the old funk players and stuff like that, just to be on a fly on the wall at a Sly and a Family Stone kind of, recording or something would have been, gas,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We have come to that time, isn't it, where like all our heroes from the 70s are all sort of slowly dropping off. And
yeah.
But that's just the circle of life, mate.
That's the circle of life, yeah. But, fortunately, leaving behind great catalogues of music and stuff like that, and, the great thing about music is that it's timeless, and you never, can always explore, and then, you find out, that you might go through life and go, oh, wasn't really into that jazz stuff then, but now you really dig it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like ebb and flow, and it's just, music's a gift that keeps on giving,
Yep. So there was a question from Richard Wells, an old school friend of mine. Hey, Richard, good to bump into you, mate. And he's asking if you could choose any venue to play after all this bullshit that we said we weren't going to talk about is over, which venue would it be and why?
Oh gosh, that's what day is it? Look, I think it's just. I don't think it's the venue. I think it's the moment in time. There's been some great ones. Great ones with our 80s. I do. I mean, every time I go to Sydney, we played at Canterbury Hills and RSL, right? Not every time, or the Castle Hill RSL, but the Canterbury Hillston RSL in particular is just a beautiful venue, beautiful theatre. But, we don't pull big numbers there. But we recorded an AB 80s CD, which you can actually buy on eBay, absolutely 80s then. And now we did A-sides kind of previous release masters, and then B-sides a live thing we recorded there, back about 5 years ago. And we always have a ball there, it's a really special place. There's some I like the rooms, and the production, and the in-house sound guys that we use. I mean, generally we use a lot of in-house sound guys, but we sometimes bring our own guys in, because we figure the in-house sound guys know the room better than anyone else, and sometimes, and they're quicker at it, quicker the whole getting the thing up and sounding to a great level. But look, venues like the ones that are dear to my heart, the old memories are kind of like the venue in St Kilda, which is now a motel or something, but on the Esplanade, and right beside it was Bananas, and then across the road was Bojangles, where Choppery used to hang out and stuff and whatever, and the Palais on the other side of the road, and so those venues, because not only, I think the thing about it was, you go and see, the birthday party or Screaming Jay Hawkins or Simple Minds or something, and Hunters and Collectors, which were amazing in that room. That period when they were doing when they had Greg Prano doing the guest on Talking to a Stranger and stuff, and you just and then to play it, to finally go, oh my God, we're on the stage that we used to come here on a Friday night and line up around the corner down the road, and suddenly we're on stage and this venue. So there's each of them have their own. There's not one you could kind of go, yeah, Sydney My Music Bowl. Here I am. Here I am as a kid. 2 years prior to being on that stage. Looking at the Big M girls walk by, and they're, and watching shows down there. The Mushroom concerts or whatever they were, and then 2 years later being on that stage. So it's they all have their own kind of fond memories, with them. So yeah.
Did you ever play the Playroom up here on the Gold Coast?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it was that like in Central Gold Coast, wasn't it?
You could be thinking of the Bombay Rock, which was
Bombay Rock.
Surface.
That's right.
Yeah. Playroom was one a bit further south, but man, it was just a purpose-built venue. It was there for a good 25, 30 years, and it was a real shame when that closed down because that was an institution. But
I remember Bombay Rock, and I'm pretty fond of that one. That was always a good one.
Yeah. I was just too young. That closed just before I was.
Yeah, I think we used to headline them ourselves. I think we did a show with the Eurogliders there at one stage or something, and so it was the 80s, but back then there was that was the only place you saw and heard about cover bands, because Melbourne there was a couple of cover rock bands playing out in the eastern suburbs, but up there was sort of kind of healthy cover band scene, up in the Gold Coast, because everyone used to go up there and party up there and bloody blah. Meter Maids, Warwick Kappa, a good friend of ours now. So yeah, it was kind of there's so many gigs, even Perth and Adelaide. I mean, all the states, they all have fond memories, and even these little ones out in the country towns, you kind of. They all bring great memories, and not just that now. It's like even now we do these shows. It's the same with the boys, different collaborations. You walk into a room, you think it's going to be a dog, and then you just have the best on the nights of your life.
Yep.
So yeah,
you can never pick it.
No, you can't pick it.
Yeah.
No.
Mate, I was pleasantly surprised when I was talking to your son Nash backstage at one of the shows that he told me that you had a few nice little guitars lying around at home. And I was like, I'm going to have to pick Scott's brain about those. What's in the rack beside you?
most of them I can't play, but because it is a guitar show, I thought I'd wipe the dust off a
It's
couple.
music, mate. It's all music related.
This is one. This is like my white '80s Strat. It's missing a couple of strings at the moment, but it's been set up for Greg, the guitarist from Kids in the Kitchen, but that's why I haven't strung it up again. But that one was an '80s Strat, and this one was I was over in. I think I've already talked about the story, but I was over in New York at the time, and I was coming home and I wanted to buy a Strat, and Steve Stevens, guitarist, got this one sorted for me. So this is the one I've had the longest, and it just plays so great. It's fantastic. It's been set up by Jim Cargill from Cargill Guitars.
Yep.
He's fantastic. He's down here. He's been doing it forever.
Yep.
So great to have him on board. He was actually our guitar tech on that first one of our first East Coast tours before he started
Right. Okay. Yeah. I've played his guitars, mate. Beautiful guitars.
Here's this heavy bastard.
Nice.
It's a 78 custom.
I bet that sounds really good.
Bit of a Keith Richards number.
Yep.
I don't know if he played this model, but it wasn't far off. It was around this time.
Very close, mate. Very close. Yeah. With the.
And this is a beauty. But it's like you can actually pump iron with this thing. It's so heavy.
Yeah.
But that's a beauty. Whoops. This one's Nash's favourite. My son Nash, he talked me into buying this one. The Flower Power. It's an 02.
Yep.
This is a beauty. Yeah, it just feels great. It's a Japanese one, and it's a reissue.
Yep.
I think of a 62 or something. I think they did have a 62 or something. But it's just got beautiful. It's got a beautiful paint job, and it's just light as a feather. Plays great for a telly, and just love it. It's a beauty.
I'm glad you got that one, mate. You did text me when you were looking at that. Asking my opinion on it. Went, yep, I'd jump on that. I reckon it's worth about such and such. And
I always ask opinions from my peers. Whoops. There you go. Just devalued that one. I always ask opinions from my peers because, I'd like to double check to see I'm doing the right thing. But this one's one of my favourites too. I just love that, it's a 89 Greco SG.
Nice.
So, Greco did these great copies.
Yep.
As you know, but it's in mint condition. It's just fantastic. I've even played I actually prefer it to some of the other ones, some of the real deals I've played.
Mate, something like a Greco. There's a whole series of Japanese guitars. And they call them lawsuit guitars, who are making better copies than Gibson.
They were, yeah. Greco's one of the leaders too, and I picked it up pretty cheap, but it's just beautiful. It's so clean. I don't think I don't think the tagger was still on it. It can't be played.
Don't look at it. Don't point.
Don't touch. And this one, excuse my bump. This ugly bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Tesco 1964, which I picked up pretty cheap. For these are great little Japanese thing too. Got a lot of personality. You got to be worried about turning the pickups on and off.
Yep.
you can reset things down here, but it's got a bit of a nice whammy on it. And that's a beauty. It plays well too. It's a little rock beast, and it's just great. They're kind of medium. They're kind of just low end kind of guitars, but they've got a lot of personality about them.
Absolutely. That's the kind of thing that you'd probably use in a film clip because it looks so damn cool. But you would constantly have a tuner on in the studio making sure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. And then moving on from there, just to get a few guitars out of the way.
Yeah.
This Fat Lady's a beauty. It's Cole Clark.
Yep. And
this is one that Lloyd Spiegel from Cole Clark comped me. And thanks, Lloyd. Love your work. What a guitarist. You ever heard much Lloyd Spiegel stuff?
No, I haven't.
He's a blues man down here, man. He's just, him, Jimmy Hocking, Jeff Atchison, all those boys, they're they're at the top of their league with the blues root scene.
Lloyd Spiegel, was it? Did you say?
Lloyd Spiegel, yeah. Check him out.
I'm going to write that down right
now. The guy's a mad player, but and a mad acoustic player. But I know recent years he's been working at the Cole Clark factory as well.
Yeah.
But this is a beauty, it's kind of like, Cole Clark make great guitars, and which is great.
There is a sound to Australian acoustic guitars to my ears. I don't know if anybody else agrees with me. I had a bit of a shootout one day. There's a very fine guitar player up this way named Licia. She's actually in the chat there. And we rounded up about 10 acoustics. And man, they all sound so different. But there's just a sound about Australian acoustic guitars to me. It's in the mid range.
I think it's a timbers too. You know, where they get. It's like they got kind of some really nice timbers and some great guitar makers. I mean, I don't pretend to be a guitar enthusiast. I just love I love beautiful things.
Yeah.
And I noodle around, play a bit. Nash is the guitar player in the family. So hence he kind of goes, Dad, check this one out. And I go, oh, okay. But this is my new little addition last year that I got, this little troubadour, this Guild thing, and it's
nice.
It's great little couch potato guitar.
Yep.
And it sounds pretty great with it. It's got its own, with the pickup and whatnot. It's a great little guitar. It's just easy to just sit around and noodle on the couch.
Yep.
So it's a lot of fun just to have nice things to play on. And when you want to pull them out.
Yep. So one thing I did notice with just the singers in absolutely 80s when I've been sitting around backstage is most of you guys play guitar. You can play. Like I've had Brian Mannix come and grab my guitar and start playing away. I've been sitting there and Dale has straight out just, hey man, play me a B chord. Now go down to F sharp. Like he knows his stuff. So it's great that you guys are musical enough to be able to give that direction to your players because you know enough about the instrument. And as time goes on, I've seen David Gilmour play alto sax live and been absolutely blown away. It was like, since when's he's done that? It was like, well, if he took that up in, say, 1990, and he was a veteran of the scene back then, that means he's been playing for 30 years, So I guess it's only natural.
You forget that. Some people picked up, stuff kind of late. I mean, I know with Brian especially, that he was saying that, we were all kind of doing some, no one wanted to know about the 80s and the 90s and stuff. And, to put food on the table, you go out and do a solo cover gig and you'd be playing in the corner and no one would be giving a shit, sometimes most of the time they would, but you know what I'm saying. It's kind of that kind of thing. So you kind of reinvent yourself once again. It's fleshing out a few chords, playing a bit of stuff, so it becomes a necessity. It's like, well, I can't afford to pay another guy to do this, blah blah blah. So then you're forced to reinvent yourself. But for me, I've been a bit lazy with guitar playing because once again I've just played so many great players, and I just rather just go. I'd rather get you in to do the session or someone else to do the session, and I know where my strengths are. You know what I mean?
Do you play well enough that you could do a gig and just strum the chords?
Yeah, I could. I mean, I can, and I have, and I could, but I can't. I don't really like it. I don't like playing live. As with guitars. Yeah. It's something that's kind of. I feel like I'm. It's I don't know. I'm too naked when I'm playing guitar and singing. But my voice is the thing that kind of will carry right through everything. I can play dummy guitar and lucky I've got the voice to hold it up, and the music's the second thing that people are listening to.
Yeah. Well, it worked for Elvis, mate.
That's right.
So folks in the chat there, has anybody got some questions that they'd like to throw at Scott? Type them in there. We'll keep on chatting away here and I can come back to some of those.
Take a drink of water.
You're right, mate. You're right. I will keep talking amongst myself then. I'll have a look at what we've got here. Emma Flowers, I hope you play at Rye RSL again, almost local.
Yeah, well, before this COVID-19 thing, I got a call. Okay, come on, guys, come back and play. So that was a bit of a bugger, but we'll definitely be back there, I'm sure, and if not later in the year in 221. We're trying to forget about 220, aren't we? So when all the dust settles and things get lifted, restrictions get lifted. So yeah, I mean, I can't wait to get out and play. A few weekends at home, and I've been kind of enjoying enjoying it, but it's like everything. It's a bit same. It's like Monday's same every day. so it's but look, we're really lucky that we haven't got the problems and got a flattened curve at the moment, and that we're all healthy and safe here in this beautiful country, Australia.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't taking it that serious when they first started talking about it. I thought it was all a bit overblown, and it was a couple of friends of mine in the States that messaged me and said, "Dude, it is so bad here. Prepare." So,
yeah, well, we've probably talked enough about the doom and gloom of that. But look, let's hope in another couple of months. I reckon by spring everything will spring. Spring will spring.
Yeah.
Spring will spring.
Mate, when we were talking a little earlier, we were just saying about how, as a singer, you weren't hip to back then about hydration and looking after yourself on the road, and it was all beer and soft drinks. And what things did you learn that you could pass on to anybody that might be listening that could save their ass?
Look, you do what you do. You're having fun, living the dream, but you just got to pull the reins in when you got to pull the reins in. If you learn by your mistakes. What can I say? You can't. It's something you can't teach. The experience, your own experience is your own experience. But I think the most important thing is just to to not lose your head. Remember that old cliche of what goes up must come down, and and treat people with respect right through, all the people at all levels, and if you don't want to have it, if you stay away from them if you can't, close, just run out the back door, but don't make an ass of yourself, and remember that the people that are there to see you are the people also to keep you alive, and whether they're idiots or they're annoying, they're your fans, and they're the listening public.
You did mention getting some singing training later on in your career. One thing I have noticed is you've either got it or you haven't. You said early on you had it. I've seen people who get all the lessons in the world and they've got all the technique, but there's just something missing, and some people even seem to go backwards. There's people that are delusional. You see those, these talent shows where people get up and they just believe they've got it, and they just obviously haven't, and they've got it in their head that they have, and it's to me that's a cruel blow to have that personality and that kind of idealistic view of yourself. People love a humble person. They love someone, even if they pretend to be a bit humble. And they love that. They don't like someone that's too egotistical. Gets them into trouble. Whether they've got the talent to carry it or not. But look, you've either got it or you haven't, kind of thing. But you can work at it. Like everything. You can actually work at just being a great guitarist, or work at just if you've got the drive, and you don't have to be anything special, but to yourself, and for your own self-esteem, it's important. So my friend Paul Morris at Tech Central is asking, and I've got him on as a guest tomorrow to talk about what little things musos can do to not ruin their gear. He says he's always doing repairs on things that could be easily avoided. So we're going to have a chat about that. But he's asking right now, what backup band or opening band was the most memorable at your own shows?
The most backing band. Look, there's not one. There's not one that's more memorable than the other. Like they're all, to me, they're all the musicians I work with are my equals. They're kind of, it's such a tough question to say. To ask who the favorite backing band is, but
I think what he meant was opening act. When he said backup.
Oh, opening act.
Yeah. Any particular opening acts coming your way and they're going to go places, and they did?
I'm a bit of a how do you say, a goldfish. I short term, I remember much of my past, thank God. So if it got me a lie detector test, I'd be safe, Hang on a second.
You're right, mate.
It'll be someone from India trying to sell me something, I'm sure.
Yeah. I love playing those guys.
Yeah. Look, opening acts, support acts, the kind of. I think at one stage, that's right. Boom Crash Opera or opening for Kids in the Kitchen.
Oh, really?
And they were opening act for Kids in the Kitchen, and then how do you say? And then they had a few extra hits, and we were kind of coming down. We were down between singles or something, and then they ended up opening for them.
Sure.
So as that kind of thing was happening a bit, with actually just 1 minute, you kind of. So this is the thing too. Remember where you are with it all, and we're not above ourselves to kind of go, oh, we're not going to support them after that, after them opening for us, 2 years earlier or something.
Yeah.
So it's not about that. It's about it's about the good night. And it's also about you were a little bit competitive. You wanted to blow the next band off stage a bit. There's all that stuff going on.
There's always that.
There was always that.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really happen with the Absolute 80s show. You just do your best, and everyone else brings their own kind of personality to it, and does their thing, and then moves on. So. One
thing I did notice playing with you in Absolutely 80s is you're a bit of a prankster. You're a prankster. And I can remember first show, we did 2 sets. The first show, I went up to change on my pedal board, press a little something, and I get a bit of you pushed me back, and I thought, oh, did I cross the line? Was I offside, so to speak? And then...
Oh, yes, I think that was the thing I sometimes do, was it?
And then the second set. Second set, I go to change sound, and I'm watching you because I'm balancing on one foot, getting ready to hit that pedal. And as soon as I raise that foot, you push me over, and I'm just like, I've got him. I'm onto him. He's a prankster. And ever since then, you'll always get one in where I'm just about to change the sound.
That's right.
And I love that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's important, and that personality, keeping it real on stage is like you don't belittle what you did, but. We always I always try to put in the best performance I can with, whenever to me, it's always the best performance is the next performance,
Yep.
And I always try to achieve that. But at the same time too, you don't always have to take yourself so seriously, to take the piss out of yourself a little bit goes a long way, especially in this day and age. We're
Absolutely.
kind of, we're seasoned pros. People come to see us, come there for a good time, and they don't want you getting too serious on yourself because they can see through you. It's not like you're a young teenage fan looking at your teenage idol, and then kind of everything they do is just like amazing. But obviously, when you get to our age in our career, it's about keeping it real.
Yeah. As soon as you start having fun on stage, it carries on. Like when there's a band and they're fighting on stage or something, it's not a good show.
Yeah. No, it's infectious, but it's depending on the band, seeing Axl Rose give Slash a bit of a smack around is probably wouldn't be a bad one to see.
Yeah. But no, from the moment you guys rock up to rehearsal, we'll be doing Change in Mood, and Mano will come up and give you a rub on the belly, and change in food, and it's just the way you guys all are together, mate. It's absolutely gold, and that just carries across. And
that's right.
I must thank you, because we were about to go on stage one time, and you looked at what I was wearing, and you saw it inside my suitcase, and you went, no, man, that shirt, those pants, blah, 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 Blondie, and I put it on, and yeah, man, that was looking smick. I wear that outfit all the time now. And
I'm a bit of a stylist, aren't I?
Yeah. And when everyone goes, dude, you look smooth, I go, you can thank Scott Carne for that one.
Yeah, just a little bit. Oh, look, I've been, when shoulder pads were hip and all that stuff. You go through so many scenarios with fashion designers and fluffers, doing your video clips and stuff like that. After a while, you just kind of pick up fashion tips. You pick up a bit of flair about it. And I fancy myself as a little bit of a fashion guru, not so much what I'm wearing myself, but the ability to get people looking a certain way. Especially the band. Or most of the band we work with, the bands we work with are great, but sometimes it's like I just pull some stuff out of my just accessories. Just a little bit of bit of dust and fairy dust, and it brings it up to another level,
Absolutely.
And it creates the whole buzz and vibe for what we're kind of trying to achieve.
Yep. So do you have you're in your little home studio set up now? Yeah.
No, this is just my office.
Your office. Okay. Have you got a little home studio?
Yeah, I've got one out the back.
Yeah. What are you
boys?
running?
Oh, look, I'm just running a small set. I mean, I used to have a big studio with old dinosaur stuff, tape machines and whatnot, and just sold a lot of it off. And now it's just down to a kind of sound card and a laptop, and you can do so much with that. And just a couple of nice mics, and away you go. It's not, but. It's to me, it's more about the rooms themselves. The soundproofing of the room, the absorption and all that stuff, and the standing waves and blah blah blah, and just getting those rooms right. And so we've got a nice little live drum room / vocal booth. You can kind of put a few people in there. It's really tight, but it's just an isolated booth, so to speak, and then just a little control area. But the boys are showing lots of interest with music. They're both, Nash is quite into his guitar playing, and he's and Dylan, my younger boy, he's the drummer. He wants to, he's the next John Bonham apparently.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and that's what he says to me. But I said, well, okay, let's see, let's go for it. Okay. And so hence me, rushing out and getting him a 24-inch kind of big beat ride and stuff like that. Yep. But yeah, so it was kind of a little bit musical around here, which is great, and especially with this whole lockdown thing, it's so great to be kind of just fleshing out and playing a bit of music. The boys, especially the boys, taking up a lot with it. I'm kind of going through demos and old stuff. I had unfinished symphonies and putting those together, and actually set up a label with a parent company called Zelon, and we're just releasing back catalogue stuff and stuff that my friends need getting out there, and other projects and things. So yeah, it's been a kind of good time creatively to sit back and kind of take stock about what's going on, moving forward for us, for me personally. So, but I'm in a very fortunate position. So but just to reflect on that, it's great. And I know a lot of other musicians and people who reflect too. They kind of go, hang on, saying, what am I doing? What am I doing here? What am I living here? Let's move on and try to reinvent ourselves. And so a lot of that's happening at the moment with peers and people I know. So that's the light at the end of the tunnel with this whole thing, So let's just buckle in and see how we go. Stay safe and take care out there, and that's what we've got to do.
Well, it is interesting. We actually spoke last week and just mentioned the amount of live streams that are happening since all this went down. And I went, I'm going to take a break for a little while and let everyone get it out of their way. It could lead its way to different times depending how long this takes to settle. And people are talking about drive-in concerts, which is a novelty.
Look, it'd be great. Look, for the rockabilly acts, it'd be fantastic. It'd be great to go and see, the straight eights and the detonators play, chop it out with the double bass, and and the great cars come out. But but look, where there's a will, there's a way. I think that with the relaxing when it starts relaxing a bit, there'll be ways and little events happening and popping up, and once again, there's a lot of great stuff. I saw Kevin Borage last night do his first little Facebook Live thing, and it was like, he was like, oh, how does this kind of work thing? But he did it, and it's been great for a lot of people, and it's actually been really bad for a lot of people, I've got to say too.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Some of them were going, really? Did you really think this one out very well? But it is what it is. It's reinvention, and people got to eat. I'm really feel for the musos that are hand to mouth. There's a lot of hand to mouth musos out there that do pretty tough, and they've done it tough even before the COVID thing, and just getting through this one's a quite stressful thing for them all. So thinking about you fellas.
Yep, we're getting there. We're getting there. Well, I think we are lucky in Australia. Very lucky with the.
Yeah, we are lucky. Yeah, I mean. Yeah. I mean, we can get into everything with this whole thing, but I'm kind of, at the moment, I just like, I'm glad to not get too opinionated on what's happening with the COVID thing. So
yeah. Mate, anybody in the chat room have any other questions they want to throw at us before we round things up, I just see. I'll keep chatting while if anybody adds anything there. Great listening to your wisdom, Scott, being a teenager in the 80s with Countdown on the telly and such a wealth of Aussie music. Countdown, that was a great thing, wasn't it?
Oh, mate. It's, to be watching it at 6 o'clock on Sunday and then to be on it, on the show and then comparing it a couple of times and stuff. It was just like, we were quite a fixture in the mid 80s with it. Molly loved us and the public loved us and, we kind of fit the bill, for, pop stardom back then and had a great run with Countdown. And the fact that, everyone who dug music and even didn't like music would sit down. It was like the Holy Grail, sit down there every and whether they picked it at it or not, they would sit there and look at the show and take it all in. And if you got played on that show, you kind of, and your song was catchy, you got broken, radio would pick it up and away you went. It's with the digital platforms now, there's just, it's some great, some great avenues to get your music heard, but there's so much kind of coming at you from all directions that a lot of it gets thrown by the wayside. But to have Countdown throwing out at you and everybody, knowing that everyone's glued to that show. And even Donnie Sutherland sounds, I reposted some photo the other day from Donnie, and Donnie was a huge part of it as well. And then, then you go down the line a bit, with Night Moves and and other shows that were kind of there. But there's none other than Countdown was the number one, and and Donnie was a big part of it too. And to have that outlet, that condensed listening is gold. Was phenomenal.
So what type of artists really inspired you when you were young that were on those shows? Was there...
Well, to me, it was a pretty quick rise to success. I mean, I didn't start listening to music till I was 14, or so to speak. I used to ride motorbikes, and then, then I went to school and popped into this guy who played guitar. He played a little white Strat, and he was fantastic, and he kind of turned me on to the whole thing, the music, and I was just gobsmacked. And he from that point on, he said to me, "Look, do you want to come play in my band?" I said, "I can't play in your band, I'm just I have no idea how it all works." And so I bought a bass, started playing bass with him, and kind of got a vibe going, and but it wasn't good enough for his band. So went and played with a neighbouring school band, Magnetic Force, and that's where I found out if I had the voice or whatever. But I was into the heavy rock stuff, and that's kind of whether it be Deep Purple or Led Zeppelin and that whole thing, and so it was at 14, and here I am three to 4 years later, and I've got a hit single. So I was just, music was my thing, it obviously was something that I connected with me, and I didn't know I didn't come from a musical family, so I didn't know it existed in my my psyche. But it was a great outlet for me to kind of to release my pressure cooker of childhood youth, So yeah, I was really fortunate to have that. But it's kind of funny now that I've got sons that have listening to Zeppelin and loads of different things, and so I'm kind of going back and listening to Black Sabbath again and going, wow, how good is this? And I did listen to it back then, but I couldn't afford all the albums, so I didn't get a chance to hear all the stuff, and so now it's like, oh wow, it's just great. It's a great environment to kind of go back and rediscover that stuff again,
Absolutely. And I must thank you for the greatest. I'm just going to go take a quick whiz cover up ever.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's why I put it to you and just went. But we're back.
We're back,
mate. I have noticed that a lot of the kids now are starting to appreciate their parents' music.
Well, yeah, some parents, but I'm fortunate enough. My son doesn't like Justin Bieber, but then again, I think my older son Nash, he was at one stage he didn't mind Justin Bieber for about 2 seconds, and I thought, no, please, no. but yeah, no, they've got great taste in music, and and I turn them on to things too all the time. Nash is into a lot of the kind of post-punk or pre-post-punk stuff, really, like the Stooges and lots of that kind of MC5 and all that kind of wacky stuff that I touched on and listened to, but I didn't really kind of listen to. So I'm listening to with fresh ears too, and also some of it for the first time, and they have that that camaraderie and balance of stuff going on with the boys and music. It's great, really good.
Awesome. Scott, thank you so much for your time, mate. We've been chatting.
Yeah, nice chat.
Yeah, an hour and a half there. It goes quickly, doesn't it?
Oh, gosh, Jesus.
Yeah. Folks, thank you for your time. We're going to sign off, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks again, Scott Carne.
See you on the road.
Bye
Thanks,
now.
Rick.